I'm here at this beautiful isolated beach called Butterfly Beach in South Goa, India, which is as beautiful as it is hard to get to. This is the entire extent of the beach. I'm the only one here. I had to go down this little dirt trail, rough trail, for probably an hour or so on my motor scooter, and then walk the final several hundred yards just to get here. I realize I'm terribly backlit with this light, the sun coming in, but the way the canyon walls are situated, this is the best I could do. And I thought this might be a good setting to start the series on the dynamic of leadership, the last dynamic in the dynamic leadership series. And we're going to start with the dynamic leadership equation. Now, the dynamic leadership equation is this: OR times TBR equals DL. That makes absolutely no sense to anybody unless you know what those initials stand for. Well, think back to when we did the dynamic of supervision, and we talked about the two types of roles of a supervisor: the organizational roles, those that are based on policy, the power of position within the organization, and then the team building roles, which were based upon relationships. It was the power of influence. And we said that both were important. Well, a dynamic leader has learned how to integrate both their organizational roles and their team building roles together. Now, when I first started teaching this dynamic leadership series many years ago, and I came up with this dynamic leadership equation, originally I had a plus symbol, and it was OR plus TBR equals DL. And the idea behind that was you had to have both. If you had one without the other, you really weren't going to be a dynamic leader. And then a colleague of mine, Al Cole, when we were doing this training through Community Research Associates, I was going over this with this program with him one night, and he said, "You know, Ray, that plus symbol needs to be replaced with the multiplication symbol." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, well, really what you're trying to communicate here is that there is a synergistic effect that takes place between the organizational roles and the team building roles." That's right. He says, well, let's suppose that somebody was really good in the arena of organizational roles. I mean, they knew policy inside and out. They were very good at using the power of their position, but they had no relationship building skills whatsoever, no people skills. couldn't build a team, for example. Let's say they were so good organizationally, we could give them a score of 10, but that they were so poor with the team building roles, we had to give them a score of 0. So if you use addition, 10 plus 0 equals 10. He said, but in reality, it needs to be a multiplication symbol, because 10 times 0 is what? 0. And so he was exactly right in his analysis of this, because without having the combination of the two, that person might be minimally effective as a supervisor or minimally effective as a manager, but they're never going to aspire to true dynamic leadership. You have to have both. Now, you can also argue the opposite. You can say, well, what if somebody is really good at building a team? He can build a coalition within the department, within the organization, but he can't follow the policy. He can't follow the rules. Or maybe he's at such a low level within the organization, he hasn't moved up the organizational ladder yet, and therefore is not in a position to be an effective leader. Maybe that day will come as he works his way up, but you couldn't say that person is a dynamic leader at this point. He might be a dynamic team builder, but he's not a dynamic leader. And we do know people that are very good at building teams, but they can't follow policy, that they're constantly out from under authority, and those people are not going to be effective leaders, at least not in the positive sense of the word. I guess they could lead a bunch of renegades, but that's not what we're after within our organization. So the point of the dynamic leadership equation is that you must have both, and that they synergize, that there is a multiplication effect as we learn how to fulfill the various organizational roles and combine them with the various team building roles and rise up to a position within the organization where you can use these skills, you can fulfill these roles to be a dynamic leader. This is Sheriff Ray Nash from Goa, India, Butterfly Beach. Let me show you the beach real quick. Look at this. I got to turn the thing around. This is incredible. That's the whole beach right there. It's tucked away in between these big rock canyons here. That's it. All right, till next time.